Hello, this is Coding Gicha for full-stack developers. In the previous video, I covered how to do a cloud-based backup of web server data periodically using a Git repository. This video will explain how to configure a new server to serve websites immediately by restoring backed up files. Because the existing server must serve the website until the new server is ready, I'll work with the new server IP address unregistered as the domain to serve the website. The default deployment directory for web applications is /var/www, but I'll use /var/web. I'll clone the repository that manages the overall backup process and configuration files. I'll set the username and email address to the local Git repository path. Since backup tasks will be run under the root account, I'll set the credential helper to store. Immediately after setting the credential helper to store, the password isn't yet stored, so you'll need to enter it the first time. Before registering the cron job, I will run a git command so that the password can be saved. I'll also clone the repository that manages web applications deployed by domain. I'll set the username and user email to the local Git repository path. If the Git password is stored, Git commands can be executed unintentionally, and for security reasons, I won't configure a credential helper. I'll convert the file accounts for the websites to www data. Software like MariaDB, Let's Encrypt, Nginx, PHP, and Apache Tomcat are already installed, so I'll restore the site settings and data. Let's navigate to the directory that manages MariaDB's backup SQL files. I'll run the SQL that creates the schemas. I'll use the SQL files dumped with the latest data to insert data into the corresponding schemas. Since the DNS IP address hasn't changed yet, and even after the change, it will take some time to propagate, I'll use the TLS certificate I backed up in the meantime. I'll also copy the configuration files for each website. From the configuration files copied to the site's available directory, I'll create symbolic links to the configuration files for the sites I want to serve in the site's enabled directory. I'll reload Nginx. Nginx can quickly apply the changed configuration simply by reloading rather than restarting. If you're using Apache Tomcat, also copy the server.xml file, which contains the host-specific configuration information. I'll restart Apache Tomcat. I'll also modify the information initially displayed when connecting via SSH. I'll modify the shell script that displays the information to make it more visual and readable. Since I moved the deployment directory for web applications to the /var/web directory, I'll modify it to display the usage of this directory. Now that the server migration is complete, I can update the DNS to reflect the new server IP address and wait for it to propagate. Since both the old and new servers are available for service can be provided without interruption. Since this is a service that depends on database data, if the data on the old server and the new server may be different, it is necessary to change the database on the old server to allow remote connection and use the same database until the complete migration to the new server is completed. Once the DNS IP address has been fully propagated, I can complete the migration. When the domain information changes, the remote host identifier for SSH connections also changes. I only need to delete the host key corresponding to gicha.org, but I'll also delete the entire known_host file. Let's connect to gicha.org again via SSH. When changing the DNS address to a new server IP, I've already changed the host name in the panel provided by my web hosting provider. However, when I set it up through that panel, only the first characters, using the dot as a delimiter, are registered as the remote server host. Therefore, I'll reset it to the full name, including the dot. If you're issuing a TLS certificate with Let's Encrypt, you'll need to remove the existing certificate, obtain a new one, and configure it for automatic renewal. Since Let's Encrypt internally uses ports 80 and 433 when issuing a certificate, you'll need to stop the web server before requesting the certificate and restart it once the issuance is complete. I'll set up a cron job for automatic certificate renewal and daily backups. Since it's almost December, I'll register to attempt to renew my certificate every Monday at 2:30 a.m. every even month. I'll set it to backup data every day at 2 a.m. A text editor will be used to schedule the cron table. I have Vim set as my default text editor. It may have gone by so quickly that you missed it, but when I ran Vim with the system clipboard set to be shared, it said X11 connection refused. This occurred because the host name was incorrect, as it was updated correctly only after reconnecting to the remote server. Git repositories can be monitored online. It's helpful to document the backup and restore procedures in a readme.md file so that other contributors can easily follow along. Thank you for watching.